And welcome back, everybody. We are here for our fourth match, which is going to be taking place right now between Canada and Australia for Victory Road's World Cup Tour, hosted as by Victory Road and sponsored as always from El Gato, Metafi, and GG Tour. We are here, and the score is 3-0 versus Australia right now. Canada is in the lead, Evan, and Australia is going to really have to pull it back if they want to try to chase for that final spot against Thailand next week.
Exactly, well said, Costa. Like the Canadians have really been riding the wave, being able to get into top cut and just dominating their matches all the way until now. And who would have expected this 3-0 lead right off the bat for today in our top 4 stream? And it's just amazing to see how these games played out as well. We're able to tell all these stories to you guys on stream, and the games weren't close, right? From what we have seen earlier, you guys have Costa yourself with Yuki and Hayden, you've casted all these matches, and these matches are just so close but just so entertaining, and really the amount of prep put in by the players, just props to them for doing that.
Oh, 100%. And definitely worth calling out, and as well as your little pun there, riding the waves, as we've been seeing. Team Canada so far definitely running a restricted of the water typing, right? We had the 2 Kyogres, that was from Navjit and Matt, and then we had the Palkia making an appearance right now as well. So so far it's been going very well for themselves. I think we were talking as well in discussions about the fact that Canada's prep game has been so strong right now. They've been making sure that they are covering all of their bases when it comes to Team Australia's teams that they're used to running. Like we've got, for example, a couple of Australian trainers that have gone ahead and they've won regionals, or they're playing with they're known to play with regional winning teams, and they're just trying to make sure they're covering all of their bases, and they are definitely having plans set up from them so they could go ahead and feel confident going into whatever team preview, team composition they face.
That makes a lot of sense. I think from my recollection from Canada's run last year and this year, the returning managers of John Mark Hebert, Nick Jorgensen, and William Patterson, these guys have really been on the ball, scouting for their teams and just leading their teams to great heights. It's just so amazing to see everyone just come together in such a event like this. And now we're going to jump into our 4th match. This will be between Ryan Loseto and Alister Sandover, also known as Sableye VGC. Alister is known as Viva La Blade. I remember him very well, in my early days of playing VGC. He was such a formidable opponent, and he just defeated me 2-0 so easily. And I have a lot of respect for both players. So really nice to get to see them featured on stream. They are going into this match knowing that the score is 3-0, so much weight is on both of their shoulders.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of pressure coming from Team Australia's side. Like we mentioned, Alister is going to have to try to incite the comeback right now. And I think Alister is a player that, like you mentioned, Evan, has a lot of experience, started playing in 2014 as well. We see that Alister's gone ahead and is, of course, a Players' Cup 1 finalist, multiple Worlds participations as well, where they've actually gone ahead and ended up in the 2018, the 34th place as well. So you know that Alister has that experience to be able to have that pressure on their shoulders and say, right, look, I know what I need to do. Let's just try to go ahead and get it sorted. And I'll just try to start this pushback because we need, as Team Australia, we need to try to reach that finals. We're very hungry for it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that from Alister right now. Obviously, over on Ryan's side, Ryan is, even though I think he's become more prolific in recent years, he did start in 2016. So that was during the good old Smeagol sort of era. I'm not sure how what kind of team preferences he had, but he has been building up throughout the years. He does stream as well, but I think what's very worth noting for him is the fact that he's vastly improved from, let's say, around the 2019 and 2020 series onwards. So he's been taking the Dynamax format in his stride. He's been working on it. He's been involving himself a lot in both online tournaments as well as actual regionals, where he's placed quite highly in top 8 Collinsville in 2019, top 16 in Atlantic City, and of course he did take part in Worlds this year as well.
Yeah, well said. So like both players are just really reliable members in these kind of player draft league teams. They are very household names like in the online scene, and people that really you can trust to be able to win games for their teams here. Now they're just going up against each other, and let's see, whether there are any like scouting or any homework done from both sides, because there seems to be a little bit of a trend coming out from Alister's side. From my notes, he's been using like this Darshan Palkia team, the very team that he won Perth regionals with this year, but this time he's changing up that Porygon 2 and getting it replaced by a Grimmsnarl could be interesting in the matchup. Whereas Ryan, he actually started off with 0-2. I think with kind of some funky teams. I saw at Yveltal Kyogre, but that was back then before Worlds, right? Then he proceeded to win 5 games in a row, and now his record is kind of like, it's like 5-2, and that's really impressive. It shows good consistency all throughout this format, and just sticking it through and being a good like mentor for the team in general. And he's actually like pulling up with a Rinya Sun team right now. And from my research for the teams that Canada use, Rinya Sun is the team that they use the most in terms of numbers, and they have quite a decent win rate as well. I think like 5 out of 7 times Rinya Sun was used, they've been winning. So interested to see whether this would be like a post Worlds Rinya Sun with those weakness policy Charizards popping out, or would it be something different and trying to counter something like what Alister is known of bringing? Like that seems to be his comfort pick of the Zacian and Palkia. And I gotta confess, right, like before when Worlds came, I went into it, I saw these weakness policies and I was really caught off guard. I totally didn't, like, I'm making this confession now, I totally didn't know that weakness policy Charizard exists.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think kind of playing into what we are just discussing as well. Not a lot of people do up until they realize that they're proccing that weakness policy. And they're like, oh, it's one of those. And then it just proceeds to sweep your team if you're not well prepped for it, because of the ridiculous amount of damage output that comes out from a +2 a weakness policy boosted Charizard in the sun, especially with solar power. So, yeah, I think it'll be very interesting and exciting to actually see this matchup and how it plays out too. So what we'll try to do is we'll probably go ahead and hop into team preview, or at least get that set up. So Evan, with regards to how the current matchup stands, how are you feeling? Do you think that there's one of the trainers that has a necessary advantage over the other, or do you think it's sort of equal level so far?
Yeah, this is really rough. Like you've seen a lot of how Zacian and Groudon, is able to dominate throughout the meta, and it seems kind of tough for a team with Palkia on it, with that Gastrodon always looming in the back. Thunderous does have that good matchup into the Charizard, where you always have to be aware now post Worlds whether it has that weakness policy or not, and whether it will switch into any of the 2 ground types in the back, like in Groudon or Gastrodon here. So I think Alister really needs to work very hard to overcome this. Probably try and go lean towards Trick Room, try and counter their Charizard from just steamrolling with Max Airstream.
Well, yeah, and talking about Charizard and steamrolling, we've got the leads, ladies and gents. Of course, we're going to be seeing Ryan rocking that Sun mode as a lead. So the Charizard Groudon puts a lot of pressure, and of course, having that Dynamax capability on the Charizard whilst facing against Alister's Palkia and Incineroar means it will not be affected by Fake Out. So there are a couple of plays that could go on here. You can just go for the raw Dynamax. There's not a lot of drop. Aside from maybe if you can't pick up a KO onto this Palkia, maybe the expectation from Alister here is he would prefer going down a Trick Room route, getting that set up and maybe put on pressure. But then again, a Palkia Dynamax isn't completely out of the cards of expectation.
Yeah, so we do see that Groudon switching out, kind of predicting that there might be a water move coming out from the Palkia. Alister also makes an advanced switch here, switching the Incineroar out into a Thundurus in the back. So do we see that the obvious dynamics of the Charizard? I think we do.
Yeah, we definitely do. So it seems like Ryan's just wanting to go and either get in Wildfire set up there on the other side of the field. You would think probably not in this turn because both of Alister's Pokemon at the beginning of this turn would be resisting that fire typing by a good amount. But if he doesn't go for the Wildfire, he's just wanting to actually go ahead and set up an Airstream, maybe expecting the Palkia not to go for the Dynamax, and just wanting to make sure he could somehow damage it to the point where it cannot return and not have any available resources, as we are going to be seeing the Palkia actually Dynamaxing right now at them too.
True, I think Charizard really needs to take advantage of the weather here, but we did see like some Charizard now with this weakness policy set not being able to do as much damage. The Airstream actually goes into what was once the Incineroar, catches the Thunderous upon switching, and kind of not does as much damage. We've seen a little sneak peek that it is really holding that weakness policy item, as a Palkia actually reveals a move that we don't usually see, Max Lightning, and it survives. So Charizard is then able to get that weakness policy up, and with that speed will then be able to outspeed most of the Pokemon on the field, more particularly that Thunderous. So amazing interactions coming out here.
My lordy, does that Palkia pack a punch or what? We see the Solar Power just edging down Charizard's hit points to a very measly 35. Yes, the weakness policy is procced. Yes, it is super powerful right now, but it's very close to the cusp of being KO'd, right? And there are a lot of plays that went on during that previous turn where I feel, for example, there are mind games, the Gastrodon switched in just so the weather cannot change, and Max Geyser can be redirected into that, whilst the Thunderous has been brought in, and if it is, of course, the Prankster variant, it could go ahead and apply Thunder Wave pressure onto this Charizard, forcing the Charizard to potentially consider taking a defensive sort of play for this turn, but that's left to be seen.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the Eerie Impulse does come out, even before the Charizard moves, so showing that double confirming that it is like a Prankster variant. But Charizard still is able to outspeed because of that previous Airstream boost, right? Goes for that Wildfire into the Thunderous slot and removes it from play altogether. The Palkia here has to make a choice, right? To go for that damage into the Gastrodon or take out this Charizard, and does take out the Charizard here. The electric terrain is set up, so the Gastrodon would not then be able to yawn into the Palkia. It's kind of like sitting there and Alister is choosing the right target, right, and not targeting into the Gastrodon beforehand.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we just saw that very, very minimal damage that the Gastrodon dealt onto the Palkia as well, right? My thoughts behind the Eerie Impulse play are a bit questioning, because yes, Eerie Impulse does go ahead and lower the special attack prowess of the Charizard, but you allowed that Wildfire to be set up, right? That's probably not what you're looking for, because you want to get rid of the Charizard. If you're going for the play of expecting it to not max guard, go for the T-Wave. If you do connect with it, obviously it's a weakness policy, it doesn't have Lumberry. You connect with it, you both take out the Charizard, and you essentially negate the Wildfire ever being set up. But in this situation, we saw the Thunderous went immediately down, and even at neutral, Charizard is that powerful in some.
Yeah, so kind of interesting, and then both players will then be forced to bring out their Zacians here. We did see Ryan's Zacian's ability proc before Alister's one, so might be telling of how the speed interactions work, as the play rough does go into the Palkia and take that clean KO. Thankfully it connects, as this Gastrodon goes for the protect here, and let's see if Alister goes for the damage into the Gastrodon, and sure enough the Sacred Sword goes into that protect, as we do see some Wildfire chip damage start rolling down onto Alister's team, and I think Alister is just down to 2 Pokemon left, right?
Yeah, I believe that is the case, and as we are going to be seeing the Incineroar coming now back onto the field, and being able to drop the attack of that Zacian over on Ryan's side from +1 now down to neutral. So Wildfire is set up. This isn't looking like a good spot for Alister at all. Ryan has positioned himself quite nicely here. There was the thought of, since this Charizard is weakness policy, then it may be slower than the Palkia over on Alister's side. Maybe that's what Alister was thinking about when it came to the Eerie Impulse versus Thunder Wave. But I still think you need to go for the hacks there for the Paras, as we're going to be seeing the Zacian actually go for the Protect now.
Yeah, so here comes the Sacred Sword into the Gastrodon. It's not clearly a 2-hit KO. Incineroar did not go for fake out or parting shot, but does want to go for that damage into the Zacian. And we see the Gastrodon retaliate back with that Earth Power, pretty significant damage, right? Just puts Zacian down into the raid. It seems really dangerous, like if Ryan's Zacian is consistently faster.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in this situation, Ryan's been able to position himself to the point where this Zacian over on Alister's side will likely be going down at the end of this turn or the next. So you want to be able to have that additional resource in the back, which we know is a Groudon and which we know is at full HP. So I think there should be a wrap up from Ryan's side, barring any sort of RNG that may come out from this turn. But his Zacian does move first, go for the Sacred Sword, and doesn't proc any sort of berries at the minute. It's a 2-hit KO onto the Incineroar, whilst the Zacian over on Alister's side fails to pick up the KO with its own Sacred Sword onto the Gastrodon, but Incineroar does pick off that Zacian. So Ryan Zacian is down now and out of game one, which will be bringing in this Groudon at the end of this turn, post this Earth Power reveal of that Sugar Berry being onto the Incineroar. So I think all that Groudon needs to do right now, Evan, is just connect with a move to pick up that Zacian.
True, I think Alister is really also playing very carefully and getting as much information as he can out of Ryan, right? Like getting to know who that last Pokemon is useful. Wow, that Zacian again surviving, like very clutch survival there with that wildfire burn, and gets to live to see another day. But the wildfire could still be in effect and it could go down there. So I think if Gastrodon just protects here, then Ryan should be able to clean out this game confidently, regardless of whether the Groudon goes for a move into the Zacian or not. If that Zacian were to go for this Beam of Blade and somehow crit and take out that Groudon, I think there's still like Ryan sort of locked the game in the back already with that wildfire.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think at this point, like mentioned, as long as Groudon can connect with any sort of move it can, if the wildfire is still is not on the field anymore, then that should be fine. But Groudon is the target of choice from this Behemoth Blade. It doesn't even pick up the KO onto the Groudon, naturally speaking, but that Fire Punch will be able to square off this game one and win for Ryan. So very interesting turn of events there. I do want to discuss very quickly, Evan, with that play rough targeting into the Palkia, do you think that we could have seen an adaptation and maybe a switch in from an Incineroar as well there? Do you think there were mind games that were involved and maybe Alister didn't want to tap in too much into it and kind of went for a read in anticipation of that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, right? Like in the form of Palkia being able to threaten the Zacian, most probably with something like a Max Quick. Yeah, and then calling that the Zacian might play defensive, but Ryan just went for the offensive there, right? And overall, I thought the Pokemon brought from both players made sense, and the dynamics on the Palkia was just a little bit strange, right? You could do something defensive like Trick Room or like try to play things a bit slow, but both players went like explosive on turn one and just unlock their dynamics right away, and we see like how everything turned out. Even though the Charizard went down early, like the Zacian and the Groudon in the back were evidently faster and still being able to put on so much pressure on the opposing side.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's kind of the strategy that Ryan, I guess, was going for. He just wanted to go and deal loads of damage and make sure that the wildfire is set up to the point where it can chip away at all of Alister's Pokemon over time. And I think kind of similar to what you said, the Palkia kind of went down and was checkmated by that play rough Zacian. I think there could have been more room for Alister to make a couple of switches there, maybe play a bit more around with the Incineroar when need be, and kind of time out to the point, or bring the board state to the point where you can have a fake out available for a key turn post that. But that's left to be seen. We're going to have to see now how Alister's going to have to try to change things up. Do you expect any great changes coming up from Alister's side, or in anticipation of Ryan potentially going for the same lead in game two?
Yeah, I think you have some information gained from game one already, like with that Charizard being weakness policy, and even being able to survive that Max Lightning life out from the Palkia. So things might be different. There could be a double up, like there could be a more offensive lead coming out from Alister to really put on that pressure onto like Ryan's team, since Alister's Pokemon seem to always be able to pressure damage, like if they are able to move first. So yeah, interested to see how things will play out. And like in this situation, Canada is up, just one game away from taking this week and going into the final. So really a lot of pressure coming out here as the pressure from the Palkia activates here.
Very well timed there, Evan. I see what you did. And I greatly appreciate it, as we are going to be seeing the leads for Game 2 right now. We've got the oppressive Sun mode going of this Charizard and Groudon once more, mirroring the same sort of leads that we saw in Game 1-2, right? Alister kind of opting to go for the Palkia and Incineroar as well. Do you think that perhaps there's more room to set up a Trick Room here if you are Alister, and maybe not be too scared of that max from the Charizard?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Just Charizard, like in Sun, just putting on so much pressure. Interested that the Thundurus didn't come out, because the Thundurus would put in help with that Charizard's damage output with that Eerie Impulse that it revealed. But here Ryan is like doing the tested and true lead of this Sun lead with massive offense, right? I think really putting a statement on to not want to get Trick Room set up and just spread all the damage on the field as soon as possible. We don't see a switch in, in like in last game where the Gastrodon and the Thundurus came in.
Yeah, and actually, we're not going to have a Dynamax over on Alister's side of things. Just going to go for that very safe protect on the Palkia. Maybe an indication that it does not have Trick Room as well. As going to be seeing Max Airstream going into the Incineroar slot, doing the sort of damage that Ryan was hoping to see in that Game 1 when the Thundurus actually had switched in. With no switches this time around. Groudon goes for the Precipice Blades. Of course, is going to be met with that Palkia. Palkia's Protect, should I say, and the Sugar Berry from the Incineroar. Will it be enough to survive? No, it is not, and all of a sudden we're in a situation where Alister's Incineroar is down and out for the count for the entirety of Game 2, whilst Charizard has a maxed Airstream that has been set up right now. So I would have hope to have seen a sort of different lead if I was from Alister's point of view. Maybe an Incineroar and Thundurus to kind of slow down this momentum that we're seeing, this overwhelming momentum from the Sun mode that Ryan's going for, because it doesn't look like he has a lot of answers to this. Yes, you do have a Thundurus right now. Maybe you'd go for Thunder Waves or Eerie Impulses, but you're not in the best of positions if you're Alister.
Alister's back is against the wall, and it seems like he wanted to kind of make a play there with the Incineroar, not going for the obvious fake out, since Ryan showed that he is free to always switch Pokemon around. So Incineroar unfortunately just taking the brunt of both the Airstream and the Precipice Blades and just goes down like that. I think really puts him at a disadvantage, and that Palkia protected on turn 1 could be useful, but overall I think stalling out the max turn, I'm curious to see whether this would then play out in effect throughout the rest of the game. The Thundurus does come in here and threaten some prankster move. It did show Eerie Impulse, but it's strange that it didn't show some form of speed control move, as the Charizard is always going for max Airstreams to ensure that it always moves first. So here we do see another Eerie Impulse.
So an Eerie Impulse on a Charizard that has not had its weakness policy procced will not be enough to pick up the KO on this Thundurus, which makes a lot of sense in hindsight, of course. It is going to be a 2-shot due to the Wildfire, and incremental damage is going to be taken at the end of the turn, as we see a Max Quake into the Gastrodon, deals a lot of damage there. Definite guaranteed 2-hit KO, whilst being able to boost not only its own as well as Thundurus's special defense by 1 stage there. And of course we're going to be seeing the Wildfire coming out right now, but that's a very interesting turn of events there, Evan, as obviously we actually see the Citrus Berry, which may come in quite clutch now with that special defensive boost.
Yeah, I think what a beast of the Palkia. It showed the electric move, it showed the ground move, it showed protect. So I think the last move would be that Worm Winner, I think. So being able to do so much damage into a very problematic Gastrodon is just really useful. It doesn't have that water move anyway in the first place, and that's a very good way to check this Charizard. You don't proc its weakness policy, you just let it do minimal damage and keep reducing it with that Eerie Impulse, right? And leave it on the field, you can deal with it later. But getting rid of that Gastron is just really important. I think Ryan really has to protect the Gastron here. He does not, right? And the Charizard goes for Wildfire, but the Thundurus did not go for Eerie Impulse again.
Oh, we see the reveal of Grass Knot into the Gastrodon. Completely knocks it out of this game too. So that is quite good, because obviously the Yawn will not actually take place and be set onto this Thundurus. Of course, the Electric Terrain is a sort of play that Ryan had to take into consideration, being set up from the Max Lightning into the Charizard, but he wasn't afraid targeting that Thundurus, not expecting the switch, as of course it is floating and it's not affected by the Electric Terrain. So we've got a scenario where this Charizard is now at neutral of its special attack. Solar Power looks like it's very close to picking up a KO on it if it stays on the field for 1 or 2 more additional turns. And Alister has a lot of strength backing himself out now with this Palkia still in Dynamax, still relatively healthy, but the Zacian is the main concern if you're Alister right now.
Yeah, once again, the Zacian is coming back. You know, we saw in the previous game that Play Rough is a comfortable KO onto the Palkia on this range. So, interested to see what Alister's plan is. Right, this Thundurus has not shown its priority speed control move yet. So going for something like a Thunder Wave could then be just really useful. It's interesting that the Palkia also went for the Max Lightning into the Charizard slot, just accepting that it's going to proc that weakness policy, right? So curious to see what Alister's plan really is and whether he can come back here with that Palkia, hopefully being able to take another KO. That Heat Wave now is able to take down this Thundurus. Thundurus once again did not go for a prankster move, right?
No, it did not. Very interesting turn of events here, as we're going to be seeing, of course, that Groudon was switched in for the Zacian in hopes of baiting that Thundurus' Thunder Wave perhaps there. But no Thunder Wave, no Prankster like you mentioned coming out from that Thundurus on Alister's side. We are going to be seeing naturally the Charizard going down to its Solar Power chip damage at the end of the turn due to the Sun. And all of a sudden we've got a situation where Ryan's down to his final 2 Pokemon. And Alister needs to be able to get some pressure on with his final Pokemon as well. That will, of course, be that Zacian of his own.
Yeah, I think both, all 4 restricteds on the field now, and then the way things played out, I think both players were still able to use Dynamax pretty effectively, just spread damage across the board as much as possible. And then we're here in this end game. The Zacian on Ryan's side still went first, right, with that Intrepid Sword, so really just putting on a lot of pressure on the opposing team, and Groudon set up the Sun, so kind of difficult for Palkia to make an impact here. Yeah, both sides are really just pressuring a lot of damage on each other all the way towards this end game.
And this is where it all comes down to what is going to target what. Play Rough goes into the Palkia's Protect. Will this Zacian Behemoth Blade be enough to pick up the KO on this Groudon, which is what I'm assuming it's going to be, and it is, and it does. Wow, so that is very, very strong for Alister right now to have any hopes of being able to come back, because all of a sudden, what you need to do if you're Alister, you need to split Ryan Zacian's focus into 2. You need to split it as much as possible. Obviously, we know that the Zacian doesn't have any sort of very powerful spread moves, aside from Snarl, but that's not exactly powerful. But in this situation, you just want to make sure that you give yourself enough leeway to go for a Behemoth Blade of your own into the Zacian without getting your Zacian KO'd first. But Zacian from Ryan's side goes and actually picks off the Palkia right here. So I think Ryan's hoping to be a sort of interaction where his Zacian survives and he can maybe either pick up a critical hit or survive a second hit, which I doubt at this point.
Yeah, it's very well said, and we've seen a lot of Zacian versus Zacian end games, right? Towards all throughout Series 12, and this is the downside of the Zacian. Although it's just really powerful and very dominant in the meta, it can only target 1 Pokemon at once. So Ryan's Zacian is consistently faster. So I guess we can come to that conclusion that it is. Oh no!
No!
It's not a critical hit though. So that just shows that Alister's Zacian might not be trained that well. Oh, that's kind of suspicious, but just unfortunate that
Evan's
it just played out like that at the end game. Oh no.
Oh my lord, that has just caught us all by surprise. We definitely thought that it was gonna survive. It was within the range where you're like, okay, surely any
Yeah.
sort of Zacian that is trained to have a bit of bulk should survive that range. That feels to me like not a lot of bulk Zacian that Alice is running mixed with high roll situation because
Mhm.
that was, oh my lord, that was just, I'm flabbergasted. I just didn't expect that.
Was there like a wildfire chip onto Alister Zashan? Like,
Sorry,
do
what
you
was that? Yeah,
remember
it was
what?
one
What?
wildfire. It was one wildfire.
Yeah,
It wasn't two.
it might have made that difference. So,
Oh,
being the fastest Zashan came in clutch there and really helped
wow.
Ryan like get that win. And now, oh my gosh, it's just the same as yesterday. Like Canada is up 4-0 against like against Australia, and they are proceeding into the grand finals of our Victory Road World Cup.
Team Canada, what are you doing? Congrats. Wow, very impressive stuff. I mean, especially against a team, a country like Australia, where it is full of quality and experience and just a lot of intricate, smart team builders and a lot of flowchart leaders of VGC. So that is very impressive, my lord. I'm in disbelief. Obviously, there's a bit of bias because I'm part Australian, but I'm still in disbelief, like completely. And huge props to Team Canada with how they've done. They've done resoundingly well. Very impressive. They've done their homework. I'm still in shock, Evan, because that didn't feel like a 2-0 to me. That felt like we were going to a game 3 as just surprised us all. But in what fashion has Canada been able to actually go ahead and secure this spot in the finals?
Yeah, I'm overall also really surprised, but it's just a very good, like very nice turn of events, and really props to Canada to be able to clinch all these 4 wins. We watched all the matches with you guys on stream, and these wins weren't that easy. Like the players did their homework. They also like were gaming quite a bit. Like these wins were really hard earned from Canada. Just amazing to see them come 4 in a row back to back. It's so like what a good performance, and like really like what I said earlier, riding this wave, being able to get into top cut, getting out of groups, and then moving all the way through this bracket, steamrolling everyone and getting all the way to the finals. So next week is just going to be so exciting, but we will still have 3 more matches for you guys. We prepared these matches for you guys to see on stream. This is chronological order, so you can see maybe some like players having a little bit of fun here, a little bit of a spoiler for some of these games.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, don't go anywhere. We've still got a lot of action going. But of course, like Evan mentioned, this does mean that Canada has gone ahead. They have secured their spot in the finals. They will be up against Thailand. So this is going to be very exciting. Of course, the finals next week. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. We've still got 3. We've got Killen versus Christopher coming up straight after, and after that we do have one of the managers, William Patterson versus Megan Rattle, who doesn't know Megan, as well as of course Christopher and everyone, all of the list of these people, to be honest. And then we're going to be rounding this off with Jean-Marc versus James Katsaros. So I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to be seeing next, of course, but initially for now, congrats to Canada. But let's just keep things going, see how the rest of the matches go, and we'll catch you all lovely people in just a few minutes.